All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yesterday there was this meeting between Father Kuka. You had the president of the Senate, you had the Speaker of the House of Reps. You had several personalities there who spoke about campaigns, issue-based campaigns, what they expect, political communication, and how they wanted things to go in a decent and orderly manner such that Nigerians can benefit from the issues that they like to present, as opposed to running rancorous campaigns that attack personalities that at the end of the day may just, put a wedge or take advantage of fault lines of Nigerians. That's part of what we're focusing on this morning, among several other issues. And this morning we're joined by Mr. Ologbodinyo is here with us. He's a former publicity secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Now he's a member of NEC. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Timberlane. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I welcome you to Abuja.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
But, it's getting to that time where, the candidates will hit the road, the agents, the campaign folks, almost everyone in the party will have a thing or two to sell about their political parties. And so perhaps that's why that meeting about political communication, us getting it right, seems to be making the rounds and seem to be apt at the moment. What is your immediate impression about that narrative, saying, listen, we have to focus on this at the moment?
Yeah, I want to say clearly that APC ought to have gone homewards and lay the blames upon themselves. Because if we go back in the trajectory of the political activities since 2015 to date, every issue that was raised at that conference, at the MILD, I think it's the place, Institute of Legislative Development or so, I think all the issues raised there concern APC more than any other political party in the history of our country. And I say so because you will recall in 2015, there was no form of language, there was no fake news that the APC didn't bring out against the People's Democratic Party, as well as its candidate then, President Goodluck Jonathan. Jonathan was called all manners of names. The total use of foul language was liberated. And there was so much attack on his person. However, even fast forwarding and coming to the position where we are today, the big brat between PDP and APC was initiated by Festus Keyamo in an interview where he started calling Atiku names. And even declaring that, he almost declared, Festus almost declared that Atiku was never vice president. He said he never functioned in office. All manner of things. So, if like they say in the street parlance, they start collecting woto, then they are now running to conferences. It's totally strange.
Well, we will get the APC representatives join us and respond to some of what you said, Mr. Larry Sonilo, who believes is on his way. But having said that, I mean, what you just submitted, does that then mean there is no place for that narrative, saying, well, it's got to be issues-based campaign?
Honestly, Chamberlain, I know you are in public domain and you also follow situations and reports. The only presidential aspirant or candidate, presidential candidate, who is speaking to issues in Nigeria today is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. It's Atiku Abubakar. He started by addressing the issue of unity.
The only candidate?
Yeah, he's the only candidate speaking to the issues and bringing out realistic solutions. First, he started by talking to the disunity, speaking to the disunity in our country. And he did say that he will unify Nigeria. He proceeded from there and spoke to the diversities and said that we cannot build something on nothing. And that for us to be able to, to progress, we must unite ourselves. He proceeded from there by declaring that structurally, we need to restructure our country. And he said that, look, he will ensure that state police is created.
But only
so if you go into the issues, Atiku Abubakar has also spoken to the issue of recurrent expenditure in governance and said that, look, The cost of governance is too huge. So we need to bring it down
But he's
to the
on
level of 45%.
Yes, just yesterday,
Yes.
the candidate of the Labour Party spoke about subsidy. He spoke about oil bunkering. Those are issues.
What were the recommendation and how did that candidate?
Yeah, but when you say your candidate is the only one speaking about issues.
I have just told you that it's not only, Atiku is not only raising issues, he's providing realistic solutions. Who doesn't know that even President Muhammadu Buhari, when he was coming in 2015, declared oil subsidy a scam. What is the fallout? We have a worsening form of oil subsidy. So it's not enough for a candidate to stand up in public and say that, oh, we are being raped in Nigeria through oil subsidy. Who doesn't know that? Is it you that doesn't know it? Or is it me that doesn't know it? The issue is that how are you going to solve the issue?
Yeah, but your party didn't address it either.
How?
Did you remove the subsidy? So it's about removal of the subsidy, which is the point you're making, isn't it?
Yes.
But that didn't happen when your party was in power.
It didn't happen. And what's it called? President Muhammadu Buhari came in and declared it a scam. He even said that there's nothing like subsidy. That anybody who says that there's subsidy is a scam. So what has happened thereafter? So what I'm saying is this. The issue of subsidy has enveloped our nation, has dragged us to the lowest ebb. Any candidate who is talking about oil subsidy must provide the solution. What I'm saying is that you don't just come...
Let me understand what you're saying. Are you suggesting that will your candidate, if he wins, remove fuel subsidy? Is that your point?
That's not the point I'm making. The point that I'm making is that you said that... I said in the beginning that the candidate of the PDP is the only candidate out there talking to the issues of the country and providing realistic solutions.
So now that you corrected
me, and you corrected me
yeah.
by saying that, no, one candidate yesterday spoke to oil subsidy, and I asked you, how did he say he will manage it? And you said to me that, oh, no, my party did not manage it when it was in power
and that was
some years ago.
Your party didn't remove it?
You said my party didn't remove it
and that was
some years ago.
So, wait, but at the moment,
yeah.
will your candidate remove fuel subsidy?
I do not speak for my candidate as I speak. You introduced me as a NEC member of the PDP.
Yeah.
So I have not had an what's it called? I've not chatted up the candidate to know his position.
Oh, you're my former spokesman.
Yes.
You know that you will know his position of what's going on. Okay, so I might as well just go there. He just shook hands with Mr. Larry Issa Ondili, who used to be spokesperson of the National Publicity Secretary of the APC himself or so, but now he is in the Presidential Campaign Council of the APC as Deputy Director of Communication Strategy. Good morning. Thank you for coming on this morning.
My pleasure. Morning.
Well, before you arrived, we were talking about how the forum yesterday, the forum were talking about they wanted decent political communication such that they address issues and not just take advantage of our fault lines, which many always fall victim of if politicians go that way. And he quickly jumped in and says, look, surprising that APC is the one talking about this now, because if you go down recent history, 2015 and beyond, that your party used all sorts of, words that were in no way near being complimentary. And so now they seem to be, he's surprised why that is the case.
Facts that are hurtful are not meant to be complimentary. If you see somebody is corrupt and is truly corrupt, I mean, it won't be complimentary to him, but that's a statement of fact. Whatever APC said, 2014, 2015, sequel to the election that brought this government into power, are facts that have been verified. The events in the last 7 years have proven. And we are still struggling, in spite of all the effort this government has made, we are still struggling to get out of all those quagmire that the PDP government put us into. So there was nothing that was said in 2015 that were not true. That won't be complimentary.
He didn't stop there.
Understand that.
He said it was equally true that your party, your candidate said that fuel subsidy was a scam, that he was going to remove it, and there was no place for it in the country. And today, he says, we can all see that apparently your party didn't put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that when we came in, we thought it was not right for us to be using the money that we needed for development to subsidize petroleum product and things like that. Yes, that is true. But the issue is this. Even when the PDP had the subsidy in place, it was fraud. I mean, there are enough facts all around that, to prove that. The issue now is that, yes, the subsidy is still ongoing, but these are something that anybody can verify that, yes, we are not able to come out of it, but at the same time, nobody is stealing the money. Nobody is stealing that money. We had sheep during the PDP that come to our, port without anything, and people got paid billions of dollars for that. That was the subsidy under PDP. Yes, there's subsidy under APC, but it's a kind of subsidy that is required to cushion the effect of the cost of petroleum products and the inflation that we have all across the world now. So Nigeria has to take some actions to cushion that effect. It's unfortunate that we are subsidizing, and that includes this government. Yes, because we have not been able to get out of having to take our crude oil abroad to go and refine and bring back. That is shameful. But I can also tell you that if what this government is doing, if PDP did anything close to that for the 16 years it was in power, we will not be in this problem. Now we are going to have the Port Harcourt Refinery, and that is confirmed by December.
Are you then saying
it will be operational?
Whether it's 4 trillion naira subsidy or 6 trillion naira subsidy, or the amount of diesel we'll consume, that nobody's stealing the money?
I can say that. Frankly speaking, I can say we are not paying for empty vessels. No.
Okay, you seem to be giggling in disagreement.
It's strange that Larry can come and stand before Nigerians out there and say that this is a saintly government. Buhari government, according to him, is saintly. It's very strange.
With regard to fuel subsidy?
With regard to fuel subsidy, with regard to the issue of corruption, you are in a situation where you have an individual stealing over 100 billion in a government. One individual, Accountant General. And you are saying that...
so that's different from the fuel subsidy?
Yes, that's different from the fuel subsidy. That you are now telling Nigerians out there that, PDP was so corrupt and you have been managing that corruption since 7 years ago. How many people have you prosecuted and how many people have you sent to jail in PDP government? That's a necessary question, because we came and said we're going to fight corruption. Now, I'm moving from there to fuel subsidy. He's talking about people bringing...
if I could just correct, yes. The matter is in court.
Oh, yes, the matter is in court. But
it's understandable when you say that case is coming up.
No. Wherever you turn to in the country, are you going to speak to the issue of $2 billion, or was it 2 billion naira, that was collected to create an airline for the country, and the best that came out of that was a logo? Is it a lie? We are standing before Nigerians now. It's the truth. Nigerians know. There is no need. Look, Chamberlain, I have a feeling within me, no matter what you come out to say, no matter the propaganda that anybody is bringing out ahead of the 2023 election, the judgment lies with Nigerians. They know the truth. They know the fact. They are the ones suffering the yoke. Having said that, on the issue of fuel subsidy, it is strange when you say that, there's no corruption. And I say it is strange because the figures that are being bandied by the NNPC on the number or on the use of fuel in Nigeria.
The amount of fuel we consume?
Yes, the amount of fuel we consume is alarming. We're in an economy in which purchasing power has dropped so low that to even feed is a problem. And somebody is coming to raise alarming figures for fuel consumption. You think the people on the streets are fools? You think they don't understand the situation? So, corruption under the APC has skyrocketed.
Well, before we move any further, my colleagues have got questions perhaps on some of these matters, so we might as well just go ahead to Lagos.
Thank you, Chamberlain. I would have wanted to follow up quickly on what Mr. Lugbedia just said now. If you query the fuel supply or fuel consumption figures, what are your figures?
Well, honestly, as I speak to you, I do not have the right figures here. But you and I know that there are general complaints among Nigerians on the fact that the level of consumption being bandied by the NNPC is alarming. You are in an economy in which the purchasing power is low. How many people are buying new vehicles in Nigeria today? All the cooperative societies that used to give loans to teachers, that used to give loans to the ordinary folks out there, they've all gone down. Nigerians can no longer run their lives on the basis of this government, on the basis of the economy.
What do you call Mr. Logbodi? Just 1 second.
You are telling us that, oh, more people...
Just
sorry,
a second.
Ayo, sorry, let me...
Just so we stay on the issue, I also remember that one of the crucial issues that, the PDP government at the time had to contend with was, this same fuel issue. You would recall January 2012 when there was that outcry, concerning fuel scarcity and all of that. It was because the government of the day at the time, which is the government of the PDP, could not sufficiently and significantly handle the situation. That is why people literally fought and said, look, we can't take this anymore. So why should people now listen to your argument?
Ayo, we should not forget history quickly. And I say so because you will recall that the President Goodluck Jonathan was out to remove fuel subsidy. And that is what led to the Ojota protest, in case we have forgotten. Because those who brought up the APC then were opposed to the removal. And they blackmailed the government of Goodluck Jonathan. And that is why then General Muhammadu Buhari declared fuel subsidy a scam. So it was not as if the PDP didn't have the political will to remove fuel subsidy. It was on that trajectory until the APC then, or the assemblage of people who later formed the APC, came out and said, no, this is a scam, you cannot do this. And we are saying that since then till date, what has Nigerians witnessed? What have they seen? So it's not in place to say that, oh, no, PDP was this, PDP was that.
Okay.
PDP had a political will.
Okay.
And we must also not forget that it was the APC leaders who led
We'll still talk a little more on the political will part of that, in a second. But let me take this to Mr. Isonilu. Now, one of the issues that, from the very beginning, all we have heard, and I'm glad Chamberlain started by talking about political communication. One would have thought that for an incumbent government such as the APC, there'll be stuff to market, your government with, why people should sustain the APC in office as the ruling party at the national level. But it would seem like the only thing we hear is we've done better since the 16 years of the PDP and all of that. If you would say these are the things to market the APC with, it would be difficult for people to agree, looking at some of the figures that Mr. Ologbodi, touted. Inflation figures are high now. ASU has been on strike for about 7 months plus now, and the students are protesting all over the place. Insecurity has literally decentralized all over the nation. So what is it that you would say this government has done that Nigerians should reconsider and say, keep us in power?
Yeah, thank you so very much, Ayo. I will tell you straight off that thankfully it is not PDP that is in power. The kind of challenges that the whole world is facing as a result of a number of issues that have happened in the last 3-4 years, especially the COVID-19 that has ravaged the economy of not only Nigeria, including countries like United States of America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, name it. This has happened. In fact, Nigeria has done a lot better than some of these countries. Don't forget that just 6 months after COVID, Nigeria came out of recession. Not many countries achieved that in the world. I'm talking globally now. So whatever Nigeria is facing now, the reason why we are able to survive and sustain even the economy to this extent is because this government of APC is disciplined, and we have policies that are pro-people and pro-poor. you don't want to talk about the effect of the intervention, the social intervention that this government has done. I'm sure channels is up to it. They can go around and find out the effect, the impact that has have on the people in terms of cushioning the effect of whatever we are facing. So, but when you're talking of what are we going to use to campaign? A lot in the sense that all across the country today, in every state of this federation, as we speak, we are having construction of roads, rehabilitation of roads that have been abandoned for decades, going on. Every single state, I say. The railway system is coming back. All of us can see it. I have taken train from Abuja to Kaduna. I have taken from Ibadan to Lagos, from Lagos to Ibadan. As we speak, the Abuja to Kano is ongoing, is verifiable. The Parakot to Maiduguri is ongoing, is verifiable. Whatever we say we are going to do, we are doing those things. The issue of electricity, we all can see the trajectory. We can see what this government is doing, and we all know that we just came out of the problem created by PDP with the way they parceled out the discourse to their friends and cronies. Now those things have been recovered, and now with Siemens in the country, we are all sure that in the next 1 year, 2 years, we'll begin to see it. Nigerians have seen it already. In the last 2 months, we've seen what we've never seen before. 98.8% of power generated, distributed in this country. It has never happened in the history of this country. I'm not talking of PDP alone. Ever in this country, it has never happened. Now we have 98.8% of power generated, distributed. That speaks to what we have done in the last 7 years. And what we are still doing, they are traceable.
Well, Mr. Isalilu, let me quickly follow up on the issue of electricity that you just raised now. When you say 98% plus of electricity generated is being distributed, 98% of what?
Yeah. In the past, the problem we faced is that we have a very weak distribution network across the country. So our problem was not that we were not generating enough. It also meant that whatever we were able to
generating enough,
we were not able to pass this on to businesses. And hold on. We are not able to pass this on to homes and businesses. But we are now saying that whatever we were able to generate, 5,000, 6,000, 4,000, now we can generate, we can distribute. That is the achievement of this government. And also generation in the next few years will go up. And then this distribution, as we speak, is being strengthened. So this is what we expect a country to do. Something that people can trace. They can see your impact and follow it. So if you take every sector of the economy, Nigerians can see where we started from and how far we have gone. So it's unlike when we had PDP that you knew virtually nothing was happening. And I still like to address the issue of corruption that my friend raised. Corruption, no country in this world would you go and you won't find corruption.
We'll come to the issues around corruption. We'll come to the issues around corruption.
Yes.
But there are those who would also argue, Mr. Olugbediyan would also argue with you. Just 1 second. We'll get there. Just one of the, Mr. Olugbediyan, for instance, would argue that some of the issues, some of the things you are, crediting and saying APC is doing it. Some of those things were initiated by the previous PDP government. The railway system you are talking about, for instance, they would say, hey, we started it, you just had to continue it. Some of the, construction projects as well, they would say, we started it, you're just continuing it. So, again, I ask, what's the selling point?
Yeah, nobody is saying that Nigeria started in 2015. Nigeria didn't start in 2015. What we are saying is that PDP started, for instance, let me give you something very interesting that you will be shocked as a Nigerian. The Abuja-Lokoja road started in 2001, following the death of a former senator from Kogi State who died on that road. And then the National Assembly quickly passed a budget in 2001, Senator Ahmed. And they passed a budget to do that road within 24 months. 2001, this government came in 2015. How many years after? It took this government to complete that project. The second Niger bridge has been home for over 40 years, including the 16 years of PDP. Nothing happened except drawing and declaration of figures without anything on ground to show. Now everybody can see the bridge, and we are very sure that in a few months' time, that bridge will be commissioned for the good use of the people of Nigeria. So the difference, hold on, the difference.
I'm sure Mr. Ologbondiyan would like to respond to you on your submission on the Niger Bridge. Let's quickly hear from him on that before I come back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Bukola. It goes beyond the issue of Niger Bridge. Lanre is sitting here. He's my friend, my colleague, a brother. He's sitting here and talking about Abuja-Lokoja Road as a completed project. That's laughable. Very, very laughable. Lanre is sitting here and talking about, projections in the power sector, whereas the grid has collapsed how many number of times? Lanre is seated here and talking about the issue of the economy. Which economy is he talking about? Is it the economy that I live in, that you live in, that Nigerians live in, or which one? He's talking about, if not for COVID-19, how many times did Nigeria fall into recession under President Muhammadu Buhari before COVID-19? How many times? And we are talking about the economy. It's laughable. There are three-pronged promises that President Muhammadu Buhari campaigned on, whether fighting corruption, whether fighting insurgency, whether fighting, improving on the economy. Everything has gone from top to the bottom. It is a fact, and you cannot run away from it, seated here and facing Nigerians. So when you talk about Niger, when you talk about the Niger Bridge, when you speak to the Niger Bridge was started by the People's Democratic Party. And you know that we have gone halfway. Government is a continuum. If you now come in, like Ayo rightly pointed out, to complete some of these projects, you don't take total credit. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar. That's what he said in my own faith. So you say that, no, PDP got to this level. If you come here, and there are people who live in those environments, and you are saying that nothing was on ground, in a total form, those who are watching you will be laughing at you. When you say that Lokoja to Abuja Road has been completed and is very functional today, and you know it yourself that you cannot travel from Abuja to Ilorin, your community, by road because of the state of the road, and you are sitting before Nigerians, and you say that in every state there are projects going on. It reminded me of a point in time when President Olusegun Obasanjo was presenting a budget in the National Assembly. I was listing all the roads that had been completed, not knowing that what he was depending on was paperwork. And members were now protesting on the floor. I can recall, and what we are saying now is akin to that. I think that there's so much lies being told to Mr. President. And that's why Mr. President went to Owerri a few days ago and declared that, look, he's achieving results, but these are not before Nigerians. There is no government, mark my words today, there's no government that requires a media hype if that government is working in the interest of the people. Because the people themselves will come out and say that, you are doing well. Take Rivers, for example. Governor Wike is building bridges, he's working, and people from Rivers State not saying that. Go to Akwa Ibom State. We are talking about power generation. Akwa Ibom governor under his government has generated power. He's looking for how to distribute. He will have to come to Abuja to come and meet the Ministry of Power. And that is why Atiku Abubakar, our candidate, has come out to say that.
Mr. Ologbondiyan, there'll be time for campaigns, Mr. Ologbondiyan. I'd like to...
I'm not campaigning.
I'd like to return to Mr. Onilu. Pardon me, I'd like to return to Mr. Onilu, particularly to taking him up on some of the submissions that he has made, particularly as they have to do with fuel subsidy. But we must take some messages now. When we return from this break, Mr. Onilu will have the floor yet again to respond to some of the submissions that he has made on the program. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In about 9 days from now, electioneering campaigns will commence and political parties and their candidates will be on the move to woo the electorate. But there are fears of caustic political campaign conversations and its dangers are too dire. This is the reason for this event at the nation's capital, as the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, in collaboration with the Kuka Center, convened this high-level forum for discussion on the nature of communication required by politicians during the period.
The Institute has organized this high-level stakeholder forum to discuss the pertinent issues shaping political communication in our country today. This is born out of the conviction that better communication and negotiation can create harmony and more desirable outcomes in our politics.
Political campaigns are mostly persuasive, but sometimes politicians get off-center when they engage in hate speech, character assassination, and primordial sentiments to appropriate attention. However, stakeholders, including the President of the Senate, Mr. Ahmed Lawan, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, call for a paradigm shift and warn of punitive measures.
The proliferation of the internet and social media platforms and the growing culture of fake news pose new dangers and threats to our collective existence. Politicians at all levels must be cognizant of this and take measures to mitigate them.
We are working very hard in the National Assembly to pass the law establishing the Electoral Offences Commission. We will see that those who seek to endanger our hard-won democracy by violating our nation's electoral laws receive the full measure of justice.
For Bishop Matthew Kuka, politics of identity has been a major threat to Nigeria's unity.
Religion ordinarily shouldn't be a problem. It is its instrumentalization by politicians, and even by us priests, whatever. These are the issues. And when we talk about issue-based campaigns, there has to be an aggregate of sentiments and feelings. That is, how do you manage a country like Nigeria that has so many distinctions and differences? The next Nigerian president we want, we don't need a messiah.
The discussion moves into a panel session, and the chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, represented by the Assistant General Manager in charge of operations, Channels Television, Mr. Kingsley Uranta, highlights the role of the media in the promotion of democracy in Nigeria as he advises politicians to guide their utterances.
Truth, professionalism should be the guiding principle for media organizations. I mean, real professional media organizations. So 2023 is a test case for media and media practitioners. But your communication and messaging has to be apt, because the people of today do not have that chance or do not have that time to listen to rhetoric.
The outcome of the discussions here are simple but instructive, and it is that participants hope the conversation will shape the 2023 electioneering campaigns and stimulate a robust interaction between political parties, their candidates, and the electorate. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News. Indeed, welcome back. And that's exactly what's on the front burner, political communication and the need and call for propriety in passing across the messages, especially as electioneering campaigns commence in just a few days from now. And we have with us, helping us to understand some of these issues, the Deputy Director, Communication, Strategy and APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Lanre Saunilu. We also have Mr. Kola Ologbondiyo, member, National Executive Committee of the PDP and former National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you for holding on, gentlemen. Let me quickly now come to you, Mr. Onilu, particularly with some of the things that you said earlier on about fuel subsidy and corruption. Let's start with fuel subsidy. You submitted earlier on that you're confident that fuel subsidy is not being stolen at this point in time. While we may need an independent audit to verify that, I'd like to quickly bring to your notice the position of Ipman countering your Minister of Finance on that, saying that exactly the amount of daily consumption of fuel is not known in the country. And also bring to your memory the position of the APC-led federal government in 2021 that fuel subsidy will be ended by 2022, and the funds channeled into provision of 5,000 naira daily as transport costs for Nigerians. So I'd like you to respond to some of these things.
Yeah, first and foremost, we would like to have facts regarding whatever corruption that have been discovered in the fuel subsidy. The difference, because that's tied to corruption as well, the difference between this government and whatever government we have had in the past, including PDP, is that we are responding to issues, including corruption, that we found even under this government. And that's what is done everywhere in the world. There's no country in the world where you don't have corruption. But is that government in any country up to the task of ensuring that whoever is corrupt is fished out and taken through the process of the justice system? That is what APC has been doing. Whatever corruption you would say has happened under this government are discovered by this government itself. And these people have been taken through the judicial process. So that is how a government runs. And that didn't happen under PDP. The system itself was corrupt. So there was nobody to follow up on anybody or arrest anybody or prosecute anybody. That is happening under APC. And once you know the system is not going to protect you, you're not going to be covered up, then the corruption will continue to reduce, and that's what happened everywhere in the world. So today, whatever they are saying about fuel subsidy, I want Ipman or any other organization to go further. Get the hard facts. I'm sure this government will respond to it. Once you're able to bring out fact that there is corruption, this government will respond to it as it has been responding to whatever issues of corruption that have been discovered. That is normal. And I like to say that the difference is what Nigerians ask for. And that is what we are showing. We are not saying we are coming to the State House and within the 24 hours of our appearance there, we're going to switch on a particular thing and then everything will be Eldorado. No, it's never happened anywhere in the world. No paradise here. God didn't promise us paradise here on earth. We are going to have to continue to progress this nation, deliberately and with determination and discipline. And that's what this government has exhibited. And no situation is perfect anywhere in the world. But are you ready to improve? That's exactly what this government is doing. Wherever we fall short, we find a way of ensuring that we provide remedy. And we continue to do our best to move the nation forward. On the issue of economy that my friend says has collapsed and used all kind of words, that is not true. You will recall that even this last quarter, the projection by the World Bank had to adjust that projection positively because we surpassed the expectation. Yes, people are not having enough to say they are enjoying maybe standard of living and things like that. Yeah, but there are issues to that. And I would encourage channels to go behind the news. Let Nigerians be educated about how we got to this stage. Not only Nigeria, globally. If you're talking of reception, UK has gone into reception more than Nigeria has done in the last 4 years. And the cost of goods and services in some of those countries are higher. The inflation rate in some of those countries are higher. So there's a global pool for all of these things.
Sorry, Chairman.
Yeah.
I just need to quickly comment. He said that under the Democratic Party, that there were no trials, that there were no frowning against corruption. That's not correct. That's not correct. And Nigerians know the fact. That's not correct. In fact, what you are saying now fits into the shoes of the APC. Because under the APC government, We haven't had one individual, I'm not aware of any individual, that has been arraigned in court over corruption allegations as a member of the All Progressives Congress. Under the PDP, we had in-house...
I'm going to let him respond to
that.
Yes,
under the APC, we had... under the PDP, we had in-house cleansing. Senate presidents were tried. Ministers were tried. Wherever we found a demeanor of corruption, people were arrested and tried. Under the APC administration, corruption has been liberalized. And I must say clearly, and Nigerians are also aware of this, that in the history of this country, we have not witnessed the type of corruption that we have under APC.
What do you say to that?
Is there anything to say to that? I mean, these are statements that...
Nigerians know
I'm sure viewers must be laughing.
Nigerians know the
I'm sure viewers must be laughing.
Is
it the peak of it? When you're saying you're fighting corruption, the peak of it is when your accountant general, the man who sits over your money, is taken by the same government that appointed him, or that under the government that he's serving, and say you are corrupt, and it's down in court.
Do you realize that before that happened, there were complaints in the public space?
Let me just
do you realize that? Do you realize that
actually,
that office was ignited with fire? Do you realize that?
Viewers must be laughing.
Some of the issues out there, you know, and at that time too, I mean, Nigerians already reacted to that, but yes, if we could just bring that up again, was that actually, during PDP time, 2 governors who your party, the president pardoned, had actually been convicted of corruption. So when that pardon came up, those 2 governors, it didn't leave a good taste in the matter of so many people. So they thought, how can a government who claims to be fighting corruption pardon 2 convicted criminals? But in addition to your response to that, if I could just go ahead and read some of this. There was this U.S. report, 2020 country report on human rights practices released by the U.S. Department of State. And there was a section there, which section 4, which was talking about entitled Corruption and Lack of Transparency in Government. Now, they went on and described, they used certain words which was, for a government that claims to be fighting corruption, was a bit odd. So that report did say, they described corruption in Nigeria under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration as massive, widespread, and pervasive.
Yeah, see, the issue is, we are not saying absence of corruption. Now, that's not what we are proving here. We are saying, are we responding to it? There are enough evidence to show that we are responding. And that's why I encourage those who are talking about corruption in the subsidy sector to come up with facts, and this government will respond to it. It's an ongoing thing. The government after this, the government after the one coming after this, it will continue. But once we continue to ensure that we take them through the justice system, this corruption will be going down.
But don't you think Nigerians have been lenient with this government? Because, for instance, if you look through the records, in February 2015, the fuel price alone was 97 naira. Yes, the president at the time, President Jonathan, reduced it to 87 naira. That's by some 10.31%, even though the criticism there, Mr. Ologbodio, is that your party was just playing politics. They were trying to appeal to Nigerians so they can vote. But in 2016, the president was already elected. May 2016, specifically, the President Buhari's government increased fuel price from 87 naira to 145 naira, 66.67%. And today, we know the price of fuel. So Nigerians have been patient because look at that amount of increase that happened over time. And yet, you've not had the kind of uproar and hoopla that you had in previous governments. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, well, patience comes with trust. I think there's some level of trust.
But this makes it harder for Nigerians.
Yeah.
What kind of trust
trust
do you require?
See, let me tell you, Nigerians are aware that even as we speak, why we are still mentioning subsidy is because this government is still considering the effect it will have on the people if we are to allow commercial rates in the oil and gas sector. What we have today is not the commercial rate. You and I know that. If you go across all the neighboring countries or any country in the world and you compare our prices here with what they charge there, what they sell their fuel products there, you will see that Nigeria is one of the lowest all over the world. And because over the last 7 years, this government has been able to demonstrate some level of commitment that Nigerians say, we can trust you. Yes, things are not where we think they should be.
That's not an issue. That's not an issue of trust.
See,
that's not an issue of
Larry, let me finish. Let me finish, please. You see, if there is no trust, Nigerians are not fools. If there is no trust, as it happened under PDP, that they gave PDP a long rope, and after over a decade, before Nigerians started responding to PDP, when they lost faith completely, when they knew nothing, that PDP had become irredeemable, that's when Nigeria responded. So as today, we have some trust, and I hope we will continue to ensure
go back and forth
that we don't waste that opportunity.
Larry, you know it as a fact, and everybody on the streets of Nigeria know this, that there is what is called weaponized hunger. You know it. Even if you claim not to know it, you have read it. It's everywhere. That is the system. That is the style. That's the strategy of this government. You have reduced Nigerians to a level where when they wake up in the morning, they are looking for how do I survive today. So if you carry your fuel price to whatever rate, Nigerians have lost belief in a man whom they claim had integrity when he was coming into office, and whom Nigerians put all their hopes and aspirations upon. And today, he has led them on a journey to nowhere. For you to now turn it around and say it's a matter of trust. Which trust? When it is difficult to even earn a living, and the cost and the prices are going up every day. When Buhari was campaigning, he said he will build a refinery each year. He cannot even maintain the refineries that are in existence.
Okay,
let me quickly respond to that.
In addition to your response.
Let me quickly respond to that.
I didn't stop you when you were talking.
In addition to, gentlemen, just hold on. In addition to your response, let me just read this.
Okay. He cannot maintain the one that he met.
Yeah.
We are producing oil in our refinery.
Just hang on, Kola. Before you respond, let me also read this to you. Mr. Kola, hold on. Because this is also out there. And it speaks to the management of the oil resources. The president is the Minister of Petroleum Resources, don't forget that. And so only recently, even though the government has said, well, the war in Ukraine is affecting us here, we can't make a lot of money because of that. And many keep wondering, in this same world that we're in, how can the government say that? Because, for instance, if you read through, and these things are all over the place, if people just do a simple read of it, they'll see this. In Saudi Arabia, for instance, the case is general, everybody knows it. Aramco, this was as at August. Now, they had record profits. As at August, they declared this, $48.4 billion in the second quarter of 2022. This was why the war was still going on. And don't forget that even at that, in the first quarter, they announced $39.5 billion record profits. This is Aramco, but Nigeria, we're nowhere in the management of our own resources. We can't even come close to declaring this kind of profits.
Okay, yeah, but let me quickly address the point where Kola said that that Buhari promised refinery every year. You know, see, Nigerians are not fools. You can't point to any document or any clip, video clip or audio where the president say every year we'll build a refinery. Does that even make sense?
Has he built one? Has he built one?
Does that
in 7 years?
But he didn't say every year.
Okay, let's assume without
conceding. This is the kind of thing
let us assume without conceding that he didn't say every year.
I'm not.
Now,
okay.
No, wait, Larry.
Why would I wait?
Well,
let him respond to.
Without conceding.
No, before you. Well, let him respond to that now. Okay, go ahead.
He has finished his tenure.
Is he also not asking questions?
No.
The point is this. That speaks to how PDP treat Nigerians. To sit down here and say that a president anywhere in the world, anybody contesting election, does it even make sense at all that they will build a refinery every year?
Has he built one? I think he cannot build one every year.
Well,
in 8 years.
You need to let him respond so that you can probably just
in 8 years, has he built one?
And so let him respond.
Now, I'm happy also that my friend, helped me out in my attempt to say exactly what PDP was. It said here that under Obasanjo, National Assembly rose because they discovered that everything Obasanjo was saying were paper work, nothing on ground.
Just like you have done.
I hope you remember that is PDP government.
Just like you have done.
So, which he also has alluded.
You have said that the road to Lokoja is fine, it's well built.
So,
but
now,
you cannot go
back to your question, You understand? Because, you know, see, we must take Nigerians serious. They are not fools. We shouldn't take them for granted. You know, but when we say things that appear that we are not, you know, having respect for Nigerians, it's not fair. When you talk of what is happening in other oil-producing nations, that they are taking advantage of what is going on in terms of the prices of oil. Yes, Nigeria is not taking advantage of that. That is the fact, because of what the challenges we have in terms of how much we're able to output and what we are able to put out into the market, yes. But the area where Ukraine and Russia war affect other countries, also affect these oil-producing countries in the area of wheat and other crops. So in oil sector, yes, they are taking advantage, but they are getting the heat from what other countries are, you know, experiencing in terms of the bashing they are having on their economy. That is global. Much of the wheat production come from between Ukraine and Russia. About 18% of the global production of wheat comes from that axis. So that is affecting every country, including the Saudi Arabia that you mentioned. But in terms of oil sector, completely, yes, we need to do more to ensure that we take advantage of whatever is
Speaking about taking Nigerians for granted, before Mr. Ologbonyo responds, is this government and the president not taking Nigerians for granted when the party promised, I mean, the last time you were here, I read that direct quote to you about the president promising us 10,000 megawatts, that they will do it, but he's not told us whether or not they're still going to achieve that, because, I mean, clearly, from the look of things, that is not likely going to happen. Yeah, so when he hasn't told the country why he said that, why they've not achieved it, or apologized to the country, isn't that tantamount to taking us for granted?
No, not at all. And I hope China is also following closely what is going on in the power sector. That we are not only going to get 10,000 megawatts, we are going to surpass that. If you go follow what the agreement we have with Siemens, that is already ongoing, not paperwork like PDP. Siemens just brought into the country some transformers. As at just 3-4 days ago, the one for Osogbo arrived there.
Is that for generation, transmission, or distribution?
Yeah, it's for all. The agreement with Siemens cover both generation, cover transmission, cover distribution. And they have timeline for what they need to achieve.
Okay.
So what China can be looking at is whether we are following, meeting up with the timeline.
We'll have that, but are you specifically telling us now that before this government hands over to the next government, we will have 10,000 megawatts of electricity distributed to our homes?
Are you talking of APC government?
Yes.
And you know the incoming government is also APC.
No, I said before this government ends and hands over to the next government. Will we get 10,000 megawatts?
Yeah, I don't know how many megawatts or how much of what they are doing will be ready. But what I can tell you is that it is going on. And when the next government comes in, whatever level they are, they will continue. But the important thing to note is that this is happening before our very eyes.
Well, it was supposed to be 5 for the first 4 years, 5 for the second 4 years. Yeah. That didn't happen.
But did you remember when that ought to happen? You remember that the trip that the late chief of staff had to Germany was in connection with Siemens contract.
No, whatever happened at the time, we don't have the results. We look at the results. We don't know.
No. You cannot look at the result in isolation of whatever is going on.
You promise us results. That's all we care for.
No. You cannot look at any result in isolation of factors that will either drive or slow down the result.
Okay.
You understand? But the fact that cannot be disputed, is that Siemens is on ground. This project is ongoing.
Because he's trying to
and they are making progress.
We need to wind down.
Yes, I sympathize with Larry because he's trying to bring water out of a hard rock. The All Progressives Congress, its presidential candidate, its president or the president of the nation has failed Nigerians. Go to the street. What we are saying here, you can only say it here. Go to Area 1 market or go to Imbo market in Lagos and say that Nigeria is the best thing to have, and say Buhari is the best thing to have happened to Nigeria. In every ramification, you promise security, you cannot deliver. You promise fighting corruption, you cannot deliver. You promise you will improve the economy. The economy is in a worse form. So what are you coming here to tell Nigerians?
No, I can tell you.
There's nothing that you have got to tell Nigerians.
I can tell you that.
Nothing.
I can tell you that if not for Buhari perhaps this country will have gone down. And now let me tell you, and I can give you facts.
Unfortunately,
and I can give you
promised to build refinery.
Our soldiers,
so there you cannot
our soldiers were running to Chad, running to Cameroon because they didn't have weapons to fight in this country.
You promised to
our soldiers were running across the border in this country because they didn't have weapons to fight.
So
now there is weapons today to
behind the
fight.
scenes. So we'll have to let it go, but we'll thank you all. We will be back in just a moment. Join us again.